You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts. Hello.
Hello.
So we had a couple of weeks off. We have excuses though.
Please forgive us.
Yes.
We're
I'm
on
sure
our
you've been
knees as we speak.
flagellating ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, but we had an excuse. The big read, which is almost over, not quite. It will be over this weekend with Dia de los Muertos. So it's big weekend. Emily has other things going on. But
A little busy
herself. Just a small thing like a wedding.
Just like a getting married situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why she had to bow out of our stuff to go do something silly like that.
If anyone has been listening, they'll know the ongoing guilt saga I've been put through.
I really can't help myself.
No, I
it's a genetic thing.
I deserve genetic thing.
Guilt.
Well, yeah, I think that I can't decide if I'm, excited for the weekend to be over or sad for it to be over on both. Like, for both Day of the Dead and wedding. Like, it's just,
It's it's a funny thing how they kind of, the planning and gearing up for it kind of mirrors, you know? It's like a year-long saga to get these things going.
In fact, I like how yesterday, Crystal came up to me and said, hey, so the list of Big Read books for next year is out. And I was like, don't talk to me right now.
I was like, you ready? Let's plan.
Let's start planning. But I am excited about some of the options. It'll be cool.
Yes, there are really good options, and I started to bring them up, mention them today, but I don't want to. You can go look it up for yourself if you're really excited about it. But, so now I've read many of them, but not all of them, so I'm going to go through and read the ones I haven't. And it's a bigger, I think, and more like eclectic selection of things. It seems
like it. So, compared to this last year.
Yeah, the last year was very restricted. They only had a few titles, but there's many more this time.
Nice.
So we'll keep you up to date on that stuff. And speaking of the big read, there is a big library read on Libby right now through Overdrive. And so if you do ebooks or e-audiobooks, there is a book that's available to anybody all at once rather than having to wait for a copy. And it's called 5 Total Strangers. And it actually sounds pretty good. I started it, and but I haven't
What's it about? I meant to ask.
Well, it was funny when I read it. I was like, have I already read this? Or, I started it. And it's about people who get a ride home in a snowstorm, and then they realize that they don't know each other really very well, and now they're in this kind of dangerous, scary situation.
Cool.
And one of them apparently is plotting something.
Oh.
And so what it reminded me of was the book that we talked about last time, The Woman in the Library, where they're like all sitting together, but they don't know each other.
Yeah.
So it's a trend, I guess.
I generally love stories like that. I mean, The Breakfast Club is an obvious, just sort of like.
Yeah, so The Woman in the Library, 5 Total Strangers, I think it's kind of harkens back to older mysteries like Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes.
That kind of thing where, or even Clue.
Yes.
The people don't know each other and they revealed aspects of their character throughout.
Some people may actually know each other more than you think. I love it. I actually, not long ago, watched the 1970, whatever it was, Murder on the Orient Express with, is it Albert Finney? It's so good. I wanted something a little spooky, but not totally spooky, and it's so good.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up spooky, because we're, coming off Halloween.
Yes.
And so a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about, or several of the things, kind of are related to that. Because, especially in the age of Netflix and stuff like that, when in September, they're like, get your spooky shows or whatever,
right,
so
right.
they're really feeding that. So all these things come up.
Yep.
and then, you're seeing, like, lists of, and I can't resist, lists of, best horror novel or best thriller TV show or whatever. So, and I'm always, like, comparing to see if I've seen them all and all that kind of stuff.
No, I'm all about it.
So, the next book or two books, actually, that I want to talk about, they are by Riley Sager. We've talked about before, and they're two books that I just got for the library: Home Before Dark and The Last Time I Lied. And they're both creepy.
Okay, I have to ask: is one of them about, like, riding in a car with a stranger? No. Okay.
There is another one though.
Yes.
Which that's a good point because that's.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember.
I can't remember what the title is, but Vicky Schmidt, who used to work at the rec center, she read Final Girls, which was the first one that I accidentally read, thinking it was a different book. And she loved it, and then picked up this other one I'm referring to, and she's been, like, hounding me every time she sees me. She's like, "Have you read that book yet? It's so good." Anyway.
Yes. So that was the third of three that we ordered for the library.
Great.
So these other two, one is about a woman who, when she was a kid, very small child, she and her family move into this haunted mansion, basically, in the woods in Vermont. And then after 3 weeks, they flee from there and something crazy happened. But years later, she restores old homes, doesn't remember anything about this, and her father dies and leaves her this house. So she decides, I'm going to go fix it up, and and that's take it from there.
It feels like such a classic setup, and one I'm always on board with.
Yeah, I'm with those kinds of things. My biggest desire is that they're gonna do something I haven't.
That's
seen
what
before.
And I think that's what I hope.
Kind of test it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because you've seen all of that stuff, and some things are more effective than others. Like, one of the best, like, haunted house movies that I've seen is The Others.
Yes.
With Nicole Kidman.
You recommended that one to me, I think, on the podcast months ago. And I think about that movie a lot. It's a great movie if anyone hasn't seen it.
It's surprising.
It's not too much. It's spooky, but not unbearable or hard to watch or anything. It was, a great ghost story. Yeah.
So, I like that kind of thing, but I've seen it all. So you gotta have a new twist or whatever. And then the last time that one is the Home Before Dark.
Okay.
And then The Last Time I Lied is about a woman who's at sleepaway camp, and 3 of her friends sneak out of their cabin and disappear. And then years later, she is an artist who makes paintings about her experiences and stuff. And then the owner of the camp somehow, I don't know, they meet each other.
Okay.
This is when I just started, but they meet each other, and the owner asks her to go back and be a counselor at the camp. So she goes back to, revisits the scene of the crime.
And still has no idea what's happened or what happened to those girls.
So both of those books kind of feed off of that, like trauma from when you're young, and then and Final Girls, all of those also deal with that kind of thing. Like, how do you get over these traumatic things, which I think is a funny and a very postmodern thing.
Yes.
Very, in our therapy soaked world.
Yes.
Like, used to, there would be, horror movies, and then, like...
Well, and it was just like, thank God, everything worked out,
fine.
And everyone lived happily
Birds
ever
are chirping.
after.
And,
right.
Yeah. But now it's like, oh, no, this happened to you. You're not going to be okay
How
after
would
that.
you actually cope with that? Yeah.
No, you're not okay.
Well, and it even makes me think of, like, Disney movies. Once you grow up, you're like, did they really live happily ever after? You were teenagers and barely knew each other.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you do love it for the...
I do.
The features of it, I guess,
yes.
mostly. So those are the books. I may mention a couple more, but mostly I'm going to report back after reading all of these big read selection possibilities.
Excellent.
And then I got into a list of like the scariest or the best horror films.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So, of course, there's a lot. I'm not going to talk about every single one. But one that I just heard about over and over, and I knew what it was, knew what was going to happen, but I just kept hearing it was so good, and that's Hereditary. And it's on Hulu.
Okay.
And I thought it was more sad than scary. It deals with the death of a child.
Oh.
And it reminded me of of a tragic accident, a couple of accidents when I was younger.
Oh,
and
goodness.
It just kind of put me in that headspace. So I didn't get the gleeful, horror
I'm
jump scare.
scared. Yeah.
It was just sad. And so, I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend it. I think people recommend things like that because it does have a very shocking thing that happens in it. And I think people focus on those kinds of things a little too much. I don't know.
I'm with you. I don't necessarily, it's not the shock value alone for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And horror movies too, I think, especially there was a while in the early 2000s when it was just, we'd grown up on slasher films and stuff, but they were taking it to this ultra extreme. And then they went away from that, which I appreciated.
Same, because I was in high school when all of those movies were coming out. You know, 2000.
The Saws and
yes,
stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and I think I kind of thought that that's what a horror movie was, and for a long time I was like, I don't like horror movies, I don't like them. And it wasn't until I was in college when I watched The Shining, and I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
And discovered that horror movies are more
Same.
than
Yeah, as
Saw.
a kid, I don't know how many times I saw The Omen.
Yeah.
And The Changeling and movies like that, classic horror films.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But then by the time I was an adult, or, in college and stuff, that's what it had gone to. And I don't find it scary. I just find it disturbing and gross. And it makes me worry about the people that want to make it and watch it.
I know.
So I'm not into that.
Nick and I were talking about that idea of the haunted houses that are it's like the haunted house version of these movies. That's just okay, what kind of twisted person is putting this together? I mean, it's taking it to such an extreme. That's a different level.
Yes. And so I kind of sense that there's maybe going back to that, which I hope doesn't fully happen.
Yes.
But yeah, there are some great ones. The Shining is obviously one. Get Out.
Get Out is good.
Just good all around.
It is.
In fact, it was a trivia question last week.
Really?
It was the only horror film to ever be nominated for an Academy
I would have
Award.
known that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then, of course, Blair Witch kind of took things in a new direction.
That's a good one.
Although they really played up that aspect of it, because I went to see it in the theater, and they had big trash cans placed in the aisles and stuff, because they said they had a thing at the beginning that people were getting sick because of the movement of the camera and stuff.
Oh my gosh! Okay, that immediately would me.
Yeah.
My phobia with that stuff, I would walk out of the theater.
Yeah,
but
it did give me a headache watching it in the theater.
In a theater, yeah, that's different. I watched it on a regular TV.
Nobody got sick in the theater when I was there, thank goodness. But
what was that? 95?
It was 98 or 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 99 probably.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway. Whew.
Yep.
But I didn't find it that scary. But it was also one of the first ones. I was reading and watching about it on the internet before,
right?
Because this, obviously dating myself, but this was before everybody. No, I didn't have a mobile phone at the time, and I was, watching dial-up, internet, and so, but there were these fan pages, and they had a huge internet push for advertising that film, acting like it was real, it was found footage.
That's right.
And so people were. I mean, they caught on pretty quickly, but there was this
kind
whole,
of
is it really?
Yes. Even just that fun.
Yeah. which never happened again. Like, you can't recreate that kind of
the
marketing,
the War of the Worlds,
exactly
situation.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen again.
No.
In fact, now everybody's just like, everything's fake. Like, you can't even watch a real
real thing and think I know. Gosh, that's so true. That's another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And then some other ones that were, or another one that was more recent, The Babadook.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
That was such a good one.
It's weird. And that one is scary.
It is. It is.
You know, and all the good ones, I think, obviously have like a psychological element where the person who you're identifying with, like the main character, doesn't know if they can trust themselves.
Yes.
And that's the scary.
Because that is, I mean, well, and even going back to Blair Witch, just that idea of being lost in whatever way is what's scary to me.
Yeah.
Whether it's inside your mind or inside the woods.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's how you identify with it.
Yes.
You imagining how you would deal with that stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, so scary movies. You gotta love them. And then
I was going to bring up really quickly one of my, when you mentioned Get Out, I also really, really, really loved Us, Jordan Peele's other horror movie.
Oh, yes, that one was very creepy.
It was very creepy, but I loved it.
And they both do really, I think they just seemed like they were structured and conceived of in a different way than other movies. Yeah,
he is he has such a special mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a horror / fantasy / psycho something.
Yes,
I don't know,
because that is literally you can't trust yourself.
Yeah,
that one is.
Man.
Anyway,
I don't even like to think about that. Well, and so then I switched over to things that are maybe a little bit less intense.
Okay.
Like, well,
if we must.
Went into the humor category with the new season of You.
Oh, yes.
Which I just watched.
I had some friends who were super excited for it.
Yeah, it was one of those that I had watched the first 2 seasons in quarantine, basically, and then didn't really think about it, and like, oh, there's a new season. It took me by surprise. It was one of those, like, how you wish you would go to Netflix or whatever, and something's
when
great.
That does happen. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, but main character Joe gets a job in a library. Yeah, and he works for Marion, the librarian.
Oh my goodness, Madam Librarian.
Yes, and so it gets a little repetitive, but that show is. I don't want to give any spoilers for it, because there's something at the end of the second season happens that's pretty outrageous.
Okay.
And then that carries over into this new one.
That's one I need to watch. I think we started it while already watching Too Many Things, which I do a lot, and so that one had to go, but I've always wanted to go back to it. Yeah, it's definitely good. Mm-hmm. Then I finished also Only Murders in the Building. We did too.
And the only thing, I thought it was funny. It was very slapsticky, not even at all scary. It's just like a Clue kind of thing.
And it was I've never seen anything like it, which I appreciate.
Exactly. Yeah. And all the characters, I mean, Steve Martin and Martin Short. There's a reason why they're
beautiful dream team.
Why they're famous for. Mm-hmm. There's a reason. But Selena Gomez, it was a weird choice. The whole time it just made me wish that it was like, not that I want anything else about old Hollywood back, but they would have given her a diction coach, and she would not talk like she has marbles in her mouth. Like, she just has a very weird delivery, and she doesn't open her mouth when she talks.
Really, and that's the thing, is I was kind of like, what's going on? Because I like Selena Gomez. I'm not like her biggest fan, but I think she's like a young person in Hollywood who is like a good role model for young girls. Yeah. She's cute and charming, but I don't know if it was her character approach.
It maybe she was meant to be the straight woman or whatever.
And I kind of felt like it was a little, and again, I don't want to be ugly, but I'd wondered if she had like work done on her face or something where she couldn't like emote.
It was. She
enough.
Couldn't emote and she couldn't open her mouth.
I know. It bothered me, and I was kind of like, "What you doing?"
You're just mumbling.
I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway.
But I was. It was the way it ended was funny because they kind of showed you something in the beginning, and I had forgotten all about it.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a classic, like, wrapping things up.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Oh, no, never mind. Let's see. And then I cleansed my palate with continuing episodes of The Wine Show. I mentioned that before, how much I like it. Well, that was Matthew Good and Matthew Reese.
Okay.
And so they add James Purefoy to the mix.
Who is that?
He was in the series Rome. He's a British actor.
Okay.
He does
Probably
all kinds of theater.
Okay.
For sure, you would.
Okay.
And then Dominic West, another British actor.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
And so, so there's just more attractive British men going around drinking wine, and it's just like, well, I made the wrong choices in life. If I'm not on that Italian villa with these guys,
I'm doing it wrong.
I did the wrong thing.
Yep.
So anyway, it's very good.
That's
very
great.
good.
That's
and
great.
then they have a little wine expert who actually knows the stuff.
That's cool.
And he's pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah, but it's just a cute show.
Cool. What a great idea.
Yeah, and then I watched. There's a new series of 6 episodes out called "The Next Thing You Eat" by David Chang. I always watch anything that he makes. He's a restaurateur, chef.
That's right.
Who also has written a bunch and that kind of thing. Eat a Peach and all this stuff. And anyway, so the first episode is about automation and how that's affecting the restaurant industry.
Huh.
And so he kind of he talks to restaurant owners and workers and looks at his own places, but then he goes to these tech companies where they're creating stuff where it's a machine that can run 12 different fryers at the same time and cook everything perfectly every time.
Oh, whoa.
Or there's several different things like that would 100% replace all restaurant workers. And so obviously he's not for that, but he wants to find out, he wants to kind of interrogate, why would you want to do that? And then what is important about the human input into that?
Right.
Or what's just basically like with any kind of automation, is it just that we want everything faster and faster and faster? And so he was looking at also like DoorDash and things like that, where, in a lot of places, especially big cities, you can get something in minutes.
Yeah.
And that people are getting used to that.
Yeah.
And they were like, in the episode, he ordered like from 4 different restaurants at the same time because he wanted the fries from this place and the burger from this place and the whatever from over here. And
it's a lot of delivery fees, but okay.
I mean, if you're, famous chef, I guess you can do it until your restaurant closes because it's all automated.
Right.
But so he's clearly got a motivation for that not to happen.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next one talks about sustainability and basically explores the meat industry and how they've created this like Impossible burger or whatever that doesn't, that basically mimics all of the things that you get from meat without having to slaughter animals. And then, so yeah, all of it's all really interesting questions, and it's not just about the restaurant world or food, even though that was, like the hook. It's really about things that are affecting all of us and our personal decisions.
Absolutely. What is the one about sustainability called?
It's the second episode. I don't remember.
Of this series.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to. My sister's boyfriend works in the restaurant industry. I think he'd be very into this.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And of course, they talk about their response to or how they've been affected by COVID. And anyway, it's very good.
Ooh,
very good
cool.
show. And okay, so since this is Love Your Shelf, I thought I would be cheeky And of course, I've also been talking about our like classics, like my favorites or whatever. So this is Loving Your Classic Shelf. And one of my favorite authors, and if you tell me that I know I've mentioned him before, but I don't think I've highlighted him.
Okay.
It's Douglas Coupland.
Okay.
And he wrote in early 90s Generation X, Tales for an Accelerated Culture. And he coined the term, like he made that a popular term, Generation X, which that's a lot of weight. That if you think about now where, Generation Y and Millennial, all of these things are coming off of that response to baby boomers, basically. And so...
that's no small feat in
no,
itself.
No. But he's also written other great things. He's... written Microsurfs, that was back in the 90s as well, about Microsoft and people that are just sort of they're coders, and so that's all they do all day, but so basically they're serfs, and that hasn't changed in the last 30 years.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, he's written more contemporary things as well. He still writes, but Hey Nostradamus is another one. Shampoo Planet and Player One, What's to Become of Us, and that's that's also about virtual reality kind of things. Nice. So I really recommend him. He's obviously got his finger on the pulse of the popular culture, and our country in particular. So Douglas Coupland,
cool.
Check him out.
Yeah, and
then I don't know if it was because of the food episode or whatever, but I decided that I wanted to share Loving Your Refrigerator Shelf.
Yeah.
Because I saw that they had burrata cheese, I think, and I told you about this the other day, I think. But I didn't know you could get it here, which it's like mozzarella, but very soft, and it's mixed with cream. So it's like you break open, and people probably already know this, but just for those who aren't familiar with it. You break open a mozzarella cheese, and it's like soft and creamy and luscious inside.
My mouth is watering.
Yes. I just ate, and I would eat some of that.
I love a good cheese.
And so I made a little recipe for myself, and I got a French roll, you could use a baguette or whatever, and then put pesto and prosciutto and burrata on it.
Ooh.
And I cannot go in the cheese aisle because I will grab some of that and go eat one of those.
Yep.
Anytime, anywhere, all day long.
Yep.
So I'm restricting myself. But if you haven't had that,
anytime, anywhere, all day long.
Exactly. But often enough. But if you've never had that, it is worth it. It is so good. And you don't want to eat a whole lot of it because obviously it's
cream
and cheese,
super rich.
yeah, exactly. But just a bite, it's good. So love your refrigerator shelf.
We did a food story time today, so this is
we're
bringing it back around for me.
We're on that vibe, getting ready for Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Let's see what else. Oh, some things that I haven't been super jazzed about that I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
There's a new season of Lock and Key on Netflix.
Yes.
And I watched the first episode, and it was a snooze fest.
I started it. I watched the first episode and a half, fell off of it, tried to watch it again. It's just, I don't know.
It was a weird approach, because I thought that they were kind of trying to, the first episode at least, as far as I got, was like, and remember how this is the case in this show? And viewers don't need that. In the age of streaming and that kind of stuff, if you need to go back and revisit other things that they've revealed, you will do that.
Yeah.
You'll look at the recap or you'll look at the last episode of something.
YouTube has, 10-minute long recaps. There's here's the season in 10 minutes.
We don't need them to do that.
No, I don't. And, and I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'll still probably try to go back and finish it, because when I first started the first season, I kind of had a hard time getting on board. I was like, oh, this acting is so questionable. But eventually it started moving along, and I got into it. And I don't know. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was looking forward to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back to it, but I did just stop it at that. And I also did that with Clickbait.
Yeah.
for different reasons, but Clickbait was one I didn't watch the last bit of it because I
watched it like you brought it up. You
Yeah.
mentioned it on the podcast a few weeks ago, and there was one Sunday when Nick was studying all day, and I hadn't like binged in a long time, and I wanted to do that, and I did that with Clickbait. I mean, I watched almost all of it that day, and
I mean, I did like it that it's, taking, like, each episode is from a different person's perspective.
I did, but
and
it doesn't necessarily go. I was worried they were going to change perspective and go back in the story. You know what I mean? And that makes me crazy sometimes.
Right.
But I like how, like, things kept moving along.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think maybe it was just my mindset at the time. It's another one that I'll finish it, and I got most of the way through it, but I just didn't quite make it to the end.
You never did finish it?
Mm-mm.
Oh. You should finish it.
Okay, I will.
Because it was one where I was like, I didn't see that coming.
And it may have even been that I, like, fell asleep in the middle of it or something.
And that's hard to...
And once you do that, at least for me, then I'm like, oh, I got to go back and figure out
Yeah,
what
I know.
point I went to
and then,
sleep.
like, am I going to ruin something for myself by accidentally going... Yeah. You should finish it, though, because it was one where... I was surprised. At how it ended up.
And that's on... is that on
Netflix?
Netflix,
yeah.
And then I've got a couple of other things about apps that I wanted to mention because I've talked about Likewise a couple of times, and then I noticed that it has through Amazon you can connect. It has an app on the Amazon Fire Stick or whatever that is Likewise, and you can whatever you have done through your app on your phone, it'll give you the suggestions, and you can watch it straight through this app.
Cool.
So yeah. I thought that was an interesting idea.
Bring it straight to me, please.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm giving it a chance. Again, like I said, with Likewise, like with any of those, you have to curate it. You have to tell it what you like. So you have to spend a little time.
Sure.
And so it hasn't gotten there yet for me. And I have pretty eclectic taste and stuff.
Yeah.
So...
That does make me a little crazy. Like, I'll watch, like, one cartoon that was something really cool and inventive and maybe something that would appeal to an adult. But then I'll start getting all of these suggestions for, like, baby shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. So far, it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But all of those services, it really depends on that.
It's true. Yeah.
And then another one that I came across is called... Awesome with an F at the beginning. So F Awesome. For free and awesome. And, I like that. So when you have every streaming service and there's still nothing to watch, you're like, okay. And I'm always looking for movies, my from the 90s, from the early 2000s, whatever, and or even from the 80s and earlier. And you have to search through all the places to see if somebody happens to have it for this month. And so I like anything that expands those, like, for older films.
Totally.
Because since there's no more video stores, you can't go, to the oldie classics section of the video store anymore.
And peruse. Oh, the best.
So those are two other things to try out.
Nice.
And I think that probably wraps up for this week. And next week we will have completed all of the big things in our lives. And
until the escape room.
Until
next week.
Until 1 week from now when we have an escape room. Yeah.
But it will still have, like, hugely calmed down, yes.
Yes. And now I think we're on more of an autopilot with the escape rooms.
Yeah.
We don't get too uptight about those. They used to be a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, I know. I mean,
but this one is going to be
no work, but we know what to do. It's kind of a bam, bam, bam situation.
And the Chronicles of Narnia is a good theme, so
I'm so excited about it, yeah.
All right. Well, and we'll have to also start talking about some Thanksgiving stuff here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think. I like to talk about food for a month prior to Thanksgiving.
If I must.
Exactly. Yep. All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Yes. Hope to see you at the festival or my wedding.
Or both.
Bye, guys.